Hello, Pat Skeets here from meandmycricket.com. Today I'm going to be sharing an album of pages. I've removed the photos from these pages, but anyway, it is a castle. It could be used for any kind of castle, and actually this is Castle Loma. It's in Toronto. And it's a huge wedding venue, special event, that sort of thing, because the grounds are so beautiful and inside the castle's all restored. It's absolutely beautiful as well. So you could use this for even wedding pages could be done with this. Several of the pages in this. I've photographed the gardens and that, and they do a lot of weddings there. So I've even been to a Christmas party there. Absolutely gorgeous. Anyway, if you're ever in Toronto, you can do Wonderland and Castle Loma. Wonderland's kind of like a smaller Disney park. Okay, so first of all, these pictures were outside the castle when we arrived, so they were pictures of the front and the side. And so I found this castle image. This castle has a lot of turrets, so this image of a castle was the one I decided to use because it has turrets. I then used a kind of a subtle print, and I did emboss it, but the embossing folder I used is really a gentle, soft brick for relics and that sort of thing. Anyway, I thought it was kind of perfect. I inked it all too. So I created a border right across the bottom with this soft blue print. It's a coordinate. All these papers coordinate. So the building itself is kind of gray brick. So I just chose this paper, and the blue sky in the pictures, it made it work. I did another border up here, and then I found this stone bridge and this pennant and flag. It was just reminiscent of medieval type things, but this castle was built in the early 1900s. So it's not quite medieval. Anyways, I used a border punch on both sides of my borders, and that's frames. And I added the fleur-de-lis just because I'm French. Okay, so this page is the gardens out front. They are quite beautiful. There's a fountain out there too. So I decided to use a pretty floral paper, and because I chose this paper, it gave me a theme, so I put a peacock there. So it's just pretty frame here. I was using puff paint dots, but I find they get pushed down, so I stopped using them in favor of enamel dots that I use today. This is a bracket from Kiwi Lane, so I just put that on the side and did a wide border with border punch on both sides. And then this is another pretty frame in a pretty paper, repeating this paper here on both sides and this paper on both sides. I just used a polka dot textured paper here, and I did use it for one layer of the bird. Sorry, I've got a frog in my throat today. I then embossed the green layer with a feather embossing folder that I had. This is just an image of a pagoda. I repeated it here for the bird to sit on it. And that's about it. More castle pictures. This would be lovely for a wedding too. All right, now we're inside the castle, and this is from a bedroom inside. This castle was owned by Sir Pellet. His wife, this was her suite. They were really rich, so nobody slept together in those days. They're really rich. They still don't, actually. Okay, so I tried to copy the detail of the wainscoting in her room, and there was a framed mirror, so I used this image around here. I repeated it all over the place. I did a very fancy frame here. Her furniture was all blue and it had white French provincial scrolly stuff on it. So this went well with that. Just picking up from the things in her suite, her bedroom. Now we have his bedroom. Sir Pellet's room is, okay, he had a large, real tiger skin rug on the floor with the head on it even. So that's why I used an animal print here. But his room, the woods were all very dark, and the furniture was dark. The paneling was dark. Anyway, I made rectangles here and put this embellishment inside, embossed it, and used gold, just copying the look of his room. I put end tables. I found furniture, a bed with pillows, a headboard, a rocking chair, a lamp, a chair, and a wardrobe. All kinds of furniture in this. And I guess he had gold accents because I've used a lot of gold on this. Probably because of this paper as well. So that was a fun page. It's a most unusual room. There are some pages of inside rooms and some pages of outside the grounds. They're magnificent. Okay, so this was a bathroom, and it was all marble, the walls and everything. So I used this paper. It looked like marble, and then there's lots of gold. So there was a big chandelier in there, so I did a black and gold chandelier. He was really into advanced technology. So this was in the very early 1900s, and he even put phones in. I think they had 30 phones throughout the castle, telephones. He had air conditioning, heating, central heating everywhere. It was amazing, the technology that was in this castle. Okay, now there's the bathtub with a shower. I just found what images I could. A pedestal sink, a towel rack, the tidal bath, and some flourishes around to make it pretty. Added some sparkles. And anyway, it made for a fun page. I did use border punches to mat all these photos and this border at the bottom, using chandelier paper, picking up on the chandelier in the photo. Bringing back memories. I lived near this place when I was quite young, and I used to go walk over there all the time and go in and pretend I lived there. I knew every nook and cranny of this place. So when I was older, I have 2 granddaughters, so I decided I had to take them there so that they could have those dreams too of living there. And then when we arrived, the youngest granddaughter looked at her mom, and we weren't even inside. We hadn't even paid admission. And she said, "Mom, can we live here?" So I thought that was just so sweet. Anyway, it was a fun day. We played hooky from school, and I took them there. All right, so this is the Windsor room, it's called. It was designed to host royalty when they came to visit. It was absolutely beautiful. And it was white and gold and a soft, soft, soft blue. So that's why I've chosen these papers. I put in, there was a mirror and a chandelier in that room too. So I put in a vanity and made the frame like a mirror frame. And I used that for all of these. Put a great big chandelier. And this shape was the shape of the tray ceiling in that room, the ornate cutout in the ceiling. So that's why I did that on the background, a little detail. And this frame is beautiful. I embossed it and I inked it with gold. This one too. They're all embossed and inked. So I used a lot of gems too. These brads poke right through. So it gives it dimension. Oh, this is a mirror as well, an image of a fancy mirror. So these were a few of the dining room photos from this place. I decided to use, I think it goes this way. So I decided that I would use, because it was dining room, different dining rooms there, that I would find a dining room table, and then I found 2 chairs, and then I found these lady images sipping tea. I think it was Art Deco. I found a tea set to put on the table, and I found this fancy image, flourish image, with a teapot and a teacup. So I used all of those. I used, these are scallops from Kiwi Lane, and this is, I lifted it on lifters so that this photo would have dimension. I lifted this, the ladies, and the teapot as well. Pretty frames for these too. These, by the way, are all on my website with the photos in them. It's in Travel Scrapbook 31. It's called Casaloma. You can find design space links for every one of these pages there. If you're if you like something and you'd like to copy it, the links are there. Travel 31 at meandmycricket.com. All right. So this was a grand hall that had a piano, a grand piano in it. So I found this great image of a piano, and I embossed it with music notes and sheet music embossing folder I found. So I used a pretty border here. I just layered 3 photos, and I put a flourish all underneath here. This had a lot of wood in this room, so that's why this colored paper. This was antique paper I had with a phonograph, and then it was music related, so because I had a music theme going on here. So I just did this beautiful paper. It has gold in it too, and the coordinate is on both sides. And this background I used for the pretty border over here. And that's all there is to this room. Now this is the library and the wine cellar. So the library is where it's huge. It's like a ballroom. And the wall is lined with bookshelves, floor to ceiling, and covered in glass doors that open and close. And this is the room where they have all the tables set up when you have a wedding or an event going on there. It's beautiful. It's near where you enter the castle too. It's absolutely huge. So with the library theme in mind, I did a stack of books, and then this is a border from image. I forget, home decor? No, I love this cartridge and I can't remember the name of it. Wall decor, that's it. I love this border. I'm not sure if you can see it that well. Oh, I've got the sun pouring in here. And then I used a border punch all along the bottom. And now for the wine cellar photo, I used a bottle of wine and 2 glasses and just put a title on here. I used the same frame on all the pages. And this is just a store-bought border along the top. Having a border at the bottom just anchors the page. It gives these images something to sit on. This was a very rustic. It was dark. The wood in the library is quite dark too, and the floors. And off the library is the conservatory. This is my favorite room in this castle. It is huge, the size of a ballroom. And it's round. And half of it is glass windows overlooking the gardens. And it has the most magnificent stained glass ceiling, a big circle in a dome in the ceiling. And that's why I chose this paper, because it's the colors of the stained glass ceiling. This was a picture of the ceiling. So it's purple and green. I think it might be grapes. Anyway, I did there's all kinds of plants in that room. It's stunning. And so I did a plant theme, all these pots lined up, this tree, bonsai tree, just a pretty background floral thing there. I used the same paper to repeat over here and as a border along the bottom of both pages. I made this frame with a border punch that has a corner and the sides. So I did both of those frames with that. And I just added a border, or a store-bought border. Most of my store-bought borders were K & Company. They sold them always to match their pads, so I always bought them because I bought the pads too. Anyway, this is a really pretty potted plant. I did a scrolly type doily image that I tucked behind. Added another plant here on lifters. This too is on lifters. I embossed this to give it some texture. Used a subtle print for this layer because it's such a big piece. It's only a 2-layer image, but it is a large piece. In plain paper, that would have been kind of blah. So I used a subtle print, small print on this. And it turned out really well. I used the same print for up here. I did emboss and ink these, lifted them all, added some puff paint dots everywhere, all along in that border and here. They did get smushed out of shape, some of them. And then I think, I added some bugs and some little leaves. These are brads that I had in a ladybug. I had a purple ladybug, so it worked. Love this place. My favorite room, conservatory, the title's along here. All right, I don't know where this was. It might have been up in the gardens. Oh, this is another page with photos of the conservatory. So it was just beautiful plants and that, and the kids were posing, and my daughter-in-law. So this was, I did plants. I picked a beautiful floral paper, added a border on top here, and this is a fern leaf border that I had, so I used that. I made this pretty floral border. I'm sure that's an Anna Griffin image, and I love this. It's hollyhocks, I imagine. The leaf paper is glitter, the background, and the backgrounds are glitter paper. So I used a coordinating paper here. These are Kiwi Lane borders. I just used 2 layers on there for the background of the borders. Now this I love using this shape for a frame for photos. It's a circle, the Martha Stewart circle punch, but you can do a doily. And now in Design Space, these aren't available anymore, but I have 10 different ones, so I love them. But you can merge a rectangle and a doily by slicing the doily and then welding them together and create this kind of frame. It's so beautiful on pages. I just love it. Then I just use my Creative Memory circle cutter to cut the edge. I could do one edge, the photo, or I can just place a photo in there. And then you can use like the red and the green to, or the red and the blue to make your shadow layer, your matte on those. So it's quite simple to do and very effective. They're also nice this way. So it makes a beautiful frame on a page. Now this could be a wedding layout easily. You could change the flowers to something the bride is carrying or something. All right. In this castle, I said there are turrets. So this is where you go up a staircase and then you're at a landing, and then you go up a wrought iron circular staircase up the turret, and you come out right on top with a view of the city of Toronto, and you can see the CN Tower from up there. So that's why I have this title, Up. I found this giant turret image, so I decided to use it for a frame for the turret photos. And then this castle is from Disney's Frozen cartridge, and this castle is also from the Disney Frozen cartridge. So I just used it as at the side and blended this on top. I found this, I love this paper. So it has the peach and the gold in it. So I was repeating. I did the one castle with the peach accents and one with the gold. The kids were posing in the staircases there on these photos to go up the turrets. But I did use a patterned paper for one layer of this castle. Actually, two. This is a print. Words are on this, but it almost looks very faint. Almost looks like, just gives the castle texture. Anyway, I guess that this was annoying to put together in little bits. Actually, this had lots of little bits too. But anyway, it's a pretty page. So these are the photos from up top on the outside on the turret roof overlooking the city. So I found this turret with a castle on top. I thought that was a perfect image for this page. And then I guess this was a new pattern. Oh, this had crowns, and that's what was regal. And I was in a castle. So I just used a geometric image and geometric papers for this. Added a little punched out square in the corner for my photos, because this was all geometric, was mostly squares. Added a circle here because of this circle. So I guess this was a 5x7 that I trimmed, and 4x6, another 5x7 I trimmed. My title, Bird's Eye View, was perfect for being on the rooftop. This circle is from this pad that coordinates. So, coordinates with these. They're all from the same pad. Now this is more photos from up on the rooftop. The kids, this is where you could see the CN Tower. So I couldn't find an image of the CN Tower, and it's so similar to the Seattle Space Needle image. I found that. I thought, oh, I'm just going to use it. Oh well. So I did. And I had this sticker of Toronto with the CN Tower. And this is another sticker of Toronto with the CN Tower, because the kids were posing in a photo and I had them hold their hand up like this, and it looked like the CN Tower was sitting on their hand. I was trying to get that look from them. Anyway, I picked fancy frames, used a great big piece of paper there and matted it for a background. Just added a butterfly, and this beautiful border has ribbon on it. Just added, I don't know, this paper coordinates with this. So there was a lot of blue sky in the photos, so this is a skyline too, a city skyline, so that's why I chose all that stuff. Okay, in this castle, this would probably suit many castles in Europe, maybe even some mansions around the U.S. This castle had an underground tunnel that led to the garage and the stables. So you can also access it from outside, but when you're in there, you tend to use the tunnel. That's the way you're led through. So I arrived there at the garage, and there's all buggies that they used. So there are stables, the most beautiful stables for horses. They're nicer than people's homes. And then there's the garage area where his cars were there too, because it was very early 1900s. He did have cars and a gas pump. There were gas pumps in there. I found this paper. It's a Graphic 45, and it had old cars and that, so I thought I'd use some of that. And this is from another Graphics 45. It's a lady in a wagon. Oh no, I guess she's in a car, an open car, and it seemed of the period, so I used it. This is from another Graphics 45 with horses, a horse theme. So anyway, I embossed this image. It's just a 2-layer image, but I loved it. And then this is a frame that I found that's an antique car. So I put brads where the hub of the wheel is, and an old-fashioned pump. Now this is a sticker. I had a sticker pack from Toronto Images, and this is Casa Loma. It's absolutely beautiful. It's really big. So, and that is another sticker. It's a shiny pop-up thing of the skyline of Toronto. So I was using up all my Toronto stickers on this album. And this is more pictures of the stables. So, I did another beautiful horse with a saddle. I love that image. And then I sat a saddle up on top of this photo. Made pretty frames with this horseshoe paper. This is, again, Graphics 45, Off to the Races. That might be the name of the pack, or the Graphic 45 collection. Because there's, I also put a picture of horse racing in there. This is on the background of the paper, the fleur-de-lis. Added some horseshoes, and my page was done. Pretty rustic, earthy tones for this. This page is in the middle, and I split this in half and used it on the outside, so that this sort of created a frame for this part. Alright, now this is Graphic 45 paper. This is, I think that's the World's Fair collection. Love it. So this was in the garage again, but the cars, this is a page for all the cars. And I found this paper in that World's Fair collection, and it's a frame and floral. So I cut that out and fussy cut all around here, and I tucked it behind some Kiwi Lane borders that I used, and then I put a wide mat on top to cover up what was under here and to hold my photo, and I put her on top of the photo because this was old cars, I think, in this. And then I put a lady dressed, this is, I think it's from Art Deco, the car. I don't remember where it's from. It's an antique car, and I put a lady dressed in, she's in the roaring 20s fashion, but still, it could have been. Anyway, I just had fun with this gorgeous paper. I couldn't wait to use it. And with this specific theme, it was kind of perfect for this era of this castle. It was a very fun page. I even used one of the patterns from the frame in her coat. Really cute. And for her shoes. Adorable. This is more outdoor photos of the castle, different views. This would be a lovely wedding page. It's so pretty. I did Kiwi Lane at the bottom and a multicolored print, and then I used one of the colors for the other border behind and the other color for the background. I used two very fancy flourishy frames here, and then flourishing borders up here that seem to go with all of this. This is a beautiful image. And then I found another one that I ran out of here, and I ran this one out going the other way out of behind the little hump in there. There's another. I just kept repeating different flourishes on the page because it is photos of a castle, but it would so be appropriate for portraits. All right, my grandkids. When we arrived, it was a drive through the city of Toronto because they lived right up in the suburbs. So it was a jaunt. So when we got there, the kids needed to get out of the car. They've been in it for a while. So they were playing around in the yard out front. And so they were having, I'm not sure if this goes this way. No, it doesn't. Okay, so they were playing around out front. They needed to get some exercise and goof off a bit from sitting. So the gardens out front are there and a fountain. So they were doing gymnastics. They were both into that at the time. So they were doing cartwheels and somersaults and whatnot all out there. And posing on a fountain that was there. We were bribing them to pose all day long, and they cooperated, so it was great. It was worth it. Anyway, this was one of my granddaughters posing with my husband around the fountain. So they were tumbling in that, so this seemed to show motion, or the fountain too. I was probably thinking of the fountain when I did that. And that's just a little girl image. Pretty frames on this, some more Kiwi Lane. This was a 3-layer border treatment here. And fancy borders, squirrels. I'm sure this was for the fountain. The motion, the flourishes. And a multicolored print, just picking up on those colors for the rest of the papers. Now there's a picture of the kids out on that fountain too, with me. So I put Nana on this page. Again, 3 triple borders of Kiwi Lane. Beautiful flowers. These are Anna Griffin images. And because this was a floral paper, I used, they're all coordinates. in the same pad, so it all tied together nicely. And I just did the frames in green to make the photos pop, because there is a little hint of green, but so it all ties together, but it really made the photos pop. So this would be a lovely page without that title for portraits. Be very nice for a wedding or portraits. And this is more of my granddaughters out the front goofing around. One of them, she was sitting on the wall just daydreaming, and so I thought I just snapped it. I think anyway, it's pretty papers, and I put this title, Be You Bravely. Did a pretty border with the Cricut there and lined it with the cord with this paper here. So this is repeated on this side, and this frame paper is on this side, so that everything's ties together. I did some pretty flowers up there, and then I added these glittery ones on top. I'm past that phase now. And these again are puff paint, but I'm going to use like I now use the enamel. Oh, this is a beautiful image, a background image. You should look up in Design Space. Just type in, when you're searching an image, type in background, and I'm gonna try and adjust this blind, affect the lighting. It doesn't. I'm trying to fix that. Oh, now it seems very dark. I have to see if it's too dark. Probably is. Wrong time of day. Oh well, I guess we'll cope with it. If you, in Design Space, if you search, just type in the word background, you won't believe the beautiful images that'll come up. And so you can create beautiful backgrounds for your pages. You can cut them up and put them on the outside of the page, or the top and the bottom, all over the place. They're really nice. Or you can type in overlay as well, and you'll find lots of pretty, and scenes. You get these three-dimensional scenes that are so many layers, and if you do them quite large, they make a beautiful intro page for an album maybe. Or if you can do it as big as you can on a page with a photo, you can maybe do it 8 inches. It's a lovely image to add to your page. Anyway, these papers all coordinate from one pad, and I'm sure that's Marcella. So here is an outdoor page. This is there's a big gazebo out the back. So this influenced the image that I picked here. It's a rather geometric one. So that's why I chose that, as I said. Now this page, because it's out in the back garden, I picked a botanical paper, and it has these beautiful butterflies along the bottom. This is another coordinate with larger flowers. So I made a frame with border punch. That's a Martha Stewart border punch. Punch around the page again. And then I picked up the butterfly theme from this paper and just put some pretty little black butterflies here and there around the page. Tucked a photo in behind here. Tucked them under. I love the Kiwi Lane for outdoor pictures. I think it looks really pretty, and I think this would be a beautiful wedding page too. Just very pretty for outdoor photos. I've actually been lucky enough to go to 2 weddings at this place, and our company had a Christmas party there too. It's pretty in the winter too. It's beautifully decorated for Christmas. Okay, so this is more of the gardens out the back, so I have the title Beautiful. And I found a beautiful paper, florals, and used it for the border along the bottom on both pages. I used my pansy border punch along there and top and bottom of this banner of paper. And I found a pretty frame and duplicated it for each side. Very simple page, really, just the title and 2 frames. But it's pretty. Nice for portraits as well. This is, oh, photos, yay. So there's pictures on this one. So they're posing at the gazebo, and you can see the shape of it. It's different peaks, but they come to a point. So that's why I chose this image. It's actually a hanging basket, which I loved, and so I just turned it upside down here and ran it behind this, tucked the photo in underneath it, and I created a planter. This is a hanging, I think it's from Flower Market. It's a Close to My Heart cartridge, but it is in Cricut Access. So I created a basket, a hanging basket with leaves and flowers from that. I repeated the same leaves and flowers in this that I used for a planter right here. So the bottom border, I did a triangle of this, cut it in like I had that piece, just cut it on a diagonal and moved it over to here. And this is just the same thing I did. So I just swapped the sides to make it a more interesting border for a change. Added this title, Smile. It's a bought border title. I absolutely love, I really like this page because I like flowers and that. Anyway, because their outfits were blue, that's why I picked this paper. And then I found this interesting little frame that I put over top. It has branches on it, so I used it. Love this page. Oh, these flowers are store-bought with glitter on them. I just put big diamonds. Oh no, they came with them probably. Okay, this is another page in the gardens. This would be a very pretty page too for a wedding or portraits. I love poppies, and so I had this poppy paper. I had used the tone on tone for the background, and then the bold pattern for the frames. And then I found these beautiful poppy images. They're a different cartridge from this. And then I found this border and I loved it, so I used it all across the bottom, all up this side, and a smaller version of it up there to fill that space. So this is quite a simple page. I do have a poppy embossing folder, which I used on this. So you can see it's very pretty. More garden pages. It was beautiful out there. So this one has a bug theme. So I found this background paper, black and green, loved it. And then this pretty patterned paper that had just a hint of black in it. I framed it, the border that I created, with a punch around the page border, and then found these 2 great insect images. I like bugs on outdoor pages. I think they're fun. Anyway, I added the title Nature, and I fit quite a few pictures on this. 1, 2, 3, and 2 is 5. And it's still very pretty. And it's a lovely outdoor nature. It could even be hiking, camping. It's just really, if you took the bugs off, you could use it for a wedding with different images on it. And now, this is a page where my granddaughter was sitting on a wall out the front of Casa Loma. She was just right out at the property line sitting on a wall. It's in a residential area, so it was right by the street. Anyway, she was just sitting on the wall, and then I got her to turn. She blew me a kiss in one of these pictures, I think. She was getting the posing thing right down. So I found this pretty floral paper, and I used it for both of the frames. I then coordinated with the polka dot and a plain paper for the corners. I love these amazing corners. There is a cartridge that has several corners, but it'll be in the description on my website. The name of the cartridge that this is in Access. I love it. I've used several of these borders. I like doing them gigantic, and they really make a statement on a page. So I just put a kiss hug title on there, and sweet daughter. And now this border is a purchased one also. It's very thick. So anyway, that's the end of my Casa Loma album. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please do subscribe below, and I'll post below my website and what album they're in, so you can get Design Space links if you wish for any of these. Thanks for watching.